we need to restore some sense of balance in, in our contact with Britain. And Britain needs to establish, find itself, find its feet in terms of its relationship with us. And when I say us, I then include the whole group, the groups of people from Africa, from all parts of the Caribbean and areas of the kind, their relationship with Indians and the Indian subcontinent, including Sri Lanka, Mauritius, and so forth. Mauritius is very much part of a group with French and British, African and Asian, like Trinidad and Tobago and Guyana, and very much less so in the smaller islands and in Jamaica. So we need to find a way to establish a relationship with Britain, which is one of equality and not imposed racial injustice. I was so surprised someone mentioned to me that I've come up in this, and I said, but I don't know about this. I think it's a great honor. I see myself as part of a movement that's unspecified, but it's been there for a long time. It's a movement of achieving some sense of challenge to a system which is sometimes it's abusive, but it's sometimes very abusive. And so one is in that situation of challenging the abuses that are inflicted, not on oneself. Oneself, sometimes one thinks of that a little bit, but it's more thinking of it in terms of the world we are in, the clients one sees, the mothers. I've seen so many mothers who are struggling to keep, to hold on to the essence of being a mother and caring for their children, child or children, and losing the battle. And I've known of a number of them having lost the battle to go on to kill themselves, suicide. So, it's a painful experience to know that the people who are really suffering have very little support and sometimes succumb to the pressures of society. So to be to be one of the persons selected to be honored, it's really representing the interests of a group of people that have no easy way of being recognized and being acknowledged. So I feel good about that bit of it, the latter bit. Yeah, I've been in psychiatry 50 years. And on Saturday, 2 days ago, I was involved in a webinar in Port of Spain, Trinidad, a Zoom event. And they had a week of events there in Port of Spain. I started psychiatry in Port of Spain. So it was great, 50 years on, to be back. It was really very, very great and a great honor for me too. Yes, it's psychiatry has been challenging. To think that one through is not easy. I was considering the issue of what have been the important challenges that I've worked with. And the people who have influenced me, it goes back to medical school, actually, when Professor Trethowne and Dr. Tibbets and Dr. Sim, these were in Birmingham, here in Britain. I think they got the ball rolling because they brought me into a frame of thinking and a frame of enjoying an aspect of medicine which had so many challenges. How does the brain work? what is mental illness? Why is it that they, one or two of them, I remember, not being able to communicate with people from the Caribbean, believed that they could establish a diagnosis without being able to communicate meaningfully with us. I really know it's not so. What is being said by this um, person is not what you have picked up, because I've picked up something that is rather different from what you've picked up, and I actually see it differently. I was really out of place, but it has continued. One very important diagnosis in psychiatry has not been included in any of the studies which say that we have an excess of schizophrenia. It, so these studies have simply dropped that, as though you have conditions that Europeans have and we don't have, and other conditions that we have and they don't have, and if they do have, not as much as we have. So I think that area of representing our people, um, and I think representing common sense in psychiatry, because common sense should say that if an Asian population of Bengalis in the East End of London can't be understood, then you can't have a person treating them who has no access to what they're saying and has no understanding of what the meaning of what might be the issue. So the same for our people, and it's affected our youngsters a tremendous amount. You know, exclusions from school, being in care with the local authority. You know, we are sometimes 2 to 3 times more likely. So these are huge issues, and I've seen several hundred of such cases. So it's been challenging. We were from up in the mountain area in Jamaica initially, and attending primary school in Jamaica was great. It was great fun, really. But I attended about 4, I think. I think at 11, I was 10 or 11. I was, you know, it was interesting. Primary school in Jamaica is interesting. We have real problems in the schooling system in certain parts, mountain areas in Jamaica. My father was head of Jamaica Welfare by the time we got to Kingston. And so there was a lot of confidence coming from the family structure. And my father, was one of the early people involved in bigging up Jamaica in terms of representing Jamaican interests. And we came to Britain because of the violence in Notting Hill, Kelso Cochrane's death. He was killed in that grove. And we came as part of that. I mean, my father was seconded by the government to come to try and improve things. So there was always this essence of, you know, do we have a purpose here? And is there somehow, can I contribute to that? The challenges that we've had as Caribbean people, as African people, as migrants too, we've had these challenges all along. I started psychiatry in Trinidad, then went back to Jamaica. Um, and in Jamaica, I found that there were quite a number of people on the psychiatric ward who had become ill in Britain. And these patients had been repatriated because of mental illness. And I did a paper on this. It was one of my first papers. And I described what would be called the repatriate syndrome of people who were looked out of it on the ward, who weren't really part of the population in the wards in Bellevue Hospital in Jamaica. And there were quite a number of them. This was in 1970. So we're not talking about um, 20 years ago, we're talking about 50 years ago. And and then I came to Britain, and here in Britain, came back to Britain, I mean, and here in Britain, I had contact with a member of Jamaican High Commission who, on hearing of this, agreed that it would be a good thing to do a study of what happened to people who were sent back to Jamaica. Did they make the recovery that our colleagues here in Britain said they would? Several of them had killed themselves. Several of them were living in the bush because the reception, if you come to Britain, you know, England make you mad. England mad you, was the popular view in Jamaica. And so they were often not accepted back into their homes or villages. For the mothers who returned to Jamaica with a child, uh, and the intention of having support from her own mother or family members, they did well actually. So they benefited from reestablishing the support network. So they had mental illness, all of them. They did poorly. Now, the popular view here in Britain among my colleagues was that if you send them back and they get under the coconut tree, or they will get better. That was a popular view. Stigma from the population, you can't come back poor and mentally ill, not on the cards. So you had failed. That was tremendously difficult for our people. So that was an issue. And then the other issue which I would mention is the New Cross fire disaster. And, you know, very soon after the New Cross fire, we became involved because it seemed that the local authorities were in such a state of shock and bewilderment. And there was a growing tension between the local population and some of whom felt that, you know, these parties were making noise too late in the night. We don't know whether that contributed to what happened in New Cross. But the local facilities couldn't or didn't manage to organize themselves sufficiently quickly to help these 13 youngsters, families of 13 youngsters who died and others were injured. In the fire itself, a 14th died somewhat later. So we set up a group, a counseling group, to provide for people in Rugby, people in Jamaica. I went to the home in Wait a Bit, a very interesting part of Jamaica in the mountain area called Wait a Bit. Followed up these cases in Jamaica and here. That was a tremendous sense of volunteerism and making one's knowledge and skills available to the population that was injured and with several dead in that situation. Well, it's been a great pleasure to have been asked to be interviewed by you. You've been very gracious, and thanks a lot. The 100 important Black Britons, I hope it does what it sets out to do, because our community needs the encouragement to move forward. And you know, congratulations to the editors and to yourself for bringing this matter to the fore.